topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I have never received so many phone calls about a show as I have for this morning's show. As you know, we just had our elections last Tuesday, and people want to know. Economy is the top of the line. People want to know. And we have an incredible expert with us. He's been with us for a long time. Let me introduce you to Ray Ferrara, Provise Management Group. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Stephen. Happy Monday, as always.
Yes, I cannot believe how Facebook starts promoting your show about 2 days out. And I cannot believe all the calls I got from people, which we gave every one of them your phone number and your email, wanting to know if we're going to talk about now what's in store for the election, after the elections. But first of all, it seems like, God, we've got a lot of new people tuning in. Tell people about Provise Management Group.
Well, Stephen, Provise Management Group is a financial planning and investment management firm with offices in Clearwater and Tampa, Florida. But we have clients throughout Florida. In fact, we're in over 30 states, helping about 1,100 clients with their financial planning and investment management, and managing somewhere around $2 billion, particularly after this past week with the nice bounce that the market had.
Yes.
So we love doing the show with you. And as you know, we offer a 1-hour complimentary consultation to any of our listeners. We can do it in either of our 2 offices or by Zoom, whatever is comfortable if you're not in our area. And so take advantage of it. If we can't help you, perhaps we can find someone who can. So Provise Management Group, and all you have to do is give us a call at 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022. Or if you want to learn more about it, simply go to Provise, PROVISE.com.
Ray, I got to tell you, I stayed up all night on Tuesday night. It was a long evening. You know, we forget about the stock market, what happened after the last elections. Did it shoot up as much, the last election, as it did this time?
It didn't shoot up as much. It was moving in a positive direction. As I've said for a long time, at the end of the election cycle, at least 50% of the people are 50% plus of the people are usually happy. Although interestingly, Trump this time won not only the Electoral College as he did in 2016, but he also won the popular vote, which he did not win in 2016. In fact, he's the first Republican to win the popular vote since George W. Bush some 20 years ago. So a very overwhelming victory, surprising a lot of folks. And, you know, people were asking, and we even chatted about it briefly, you know, what was my prediction? And I said, I'm not into making predictions. But if I were into making a prediction, my prediction is that Trump would win, because just like in
Yes, you did.
2016, there were, I think, a lot of Trump supporters out there that didn't want to admit it, except in the privacy of voting. But what did surprise us was not that he won, but the magnitude with which he won, and as quickly as he won. I think most of us thought it would be a few days, maybe even a week, before we would know the results.
Exactly.
By 6 o'clock the next morning, it was done and it was over. So, kudos to him. I know there's a lot of folks that are not happy with him being president, but I've had the same experience at other times. And all I can say is I want him to be the best president that's possible, because if he isn't, it's not good for any of us, no matter whether you whether you didn't. So it is something that we'll just have to see, and we won't know how it plays out for 4 more years.
I remember we weren't real happy when Obama won against Romney, and I said, you know what? He's our president. Let's move forward. Let's give him all the opportunities possible, and we should do that now. But most of the people who've been calling about your show, Ray, it's mostly going, what now? That's the big question. What now? Now that we know who our president's going to be.
So it's interesting that you just used those 2 words, because I had not shared with you at all that we are in the process of writing a white paper, and the title is "What Now?"
Oh my gosh!
It's a little scary. You and I on the same wavelength like that, Stephen. We certainly don't have time in our show.
We've been doing this a long time, Ray.
Yeah, we have. We don't have time this morning to cover everything, and we will finish writing up the white paper probably late this week or early next week. And certainly, if any of our listeners have an interest, again, just call 727-441-9022 or send an email to info@provise.com, and we will email the white paper we're putting together on what now, because it covers a much broader range of things than we'll be able to discuss this morning. So what now? Well, first thing is that unlike 2016, where President Trump was not well prepared to put together an administration, he is extremely well prepared this time around. We've already seen that he's named a chief of staff. He's named a person just yesterday or this morning to be the immigration czar. And so he's moving very quickly to begin to fill key spots. Last time, it took him a long time to put his cabinet together. He had some in his cabinet that were Democrats as well as Republicans. I don't think he's going to do that again. If he does, it'll be very few and far between. Many of those that were Democrats that he put into positions of responsibility, he ended up firing within a year or two, just over total disagreements. I don't think he's going to do that. I do think he's going to put in some excellent people along the way, and that's a great start and a great positive. I have not so jokingly said that he may try to be president before he's inaugurated, and we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I think I do respect the fact that he has been relatively quiet this past week, letting things settle down and soak in. We do have to remember that President Biden is the president until January 20th, and it is not good, in my opinion, for any of us to have the two of them going back and forth with each other about what's the right or the wrong thing to do. And hopefully, with President Biden's pronouncement about a smooth transition of power, they will keep the president-elect apprised of everything they're doing, and hopefully we'll have a nice transition. Once the 20th comes, there are going to be two major areas where, and maybe we should say three major areas where Trump is going to put some emphasis. The first thing he's going to do is he will sign a bunch of executive orders taking full control of the power of the presidency. And amongst those executive orders, it's my belief that he will put tariffs in place. Tariffs strategically put in place are a good thing. Tariffs that are not onerous are a good thing, but a wide brush used on tariffs and using very onerous tariffs is not a good thing for, in our opinion, for the economy and for the markets. When he put the tariffs in place back during his first term in office, much of that tariff was absorbed by the Chinese manufacturers because they desperately wanted to continue to sell into the United States. If that happens again, it is likely that the inflation that is usually caused by tariffs will not rear its ugly head, just as it didn't when he did this 7-8 years ago. If it's absorbed by the manufacturers overseas and not foisted onto the American public, it should not be inflationary. And so that's why we're not opposed to the tariffs as long as they are not they're not onerous. And they shouldn't be inflationary again if the tariffs are absorbed. Look for him to use the tariffs as a way to raise revenue to help offset some of the tax cuts that he's promised, which is the second thing for us to chat about, and to say, well, we can, because we're raising money over here in these tariffs, we should be able to cut some taxes here on the other side. I'm not sure that those scales are going to be balanced. The amount of money that's going to be raised by the tariffs, I'm concerned, won't be big enough to absorb some of the tax cuts. And now we're going to have to see what he does relative to the promises that he's made to so many people about, particularly to the middle class group of people that voted so heavily for him. But he has to get a lot through Congress. And although he may eventually end up with both a Republican Senate and a Republican House, they're both so close.
Yes.
He's still going to have to bargain, and the Republicans and the Democrats are going to have to still bargain. So probably isn't going to get everything that would come about. And I mean, if you look in the Senate, there's 53, maybe 54 senators that are Republican, but it takes 60 to get anything through the Senate because of the filibuster. And I hope they don't try to get rid of the filibuster. That would be a bad thing in my opinion. And then the House, the small gang of Republicans that caused so much chaos in the last 2 years, no reason to think that they're going to change. And then lastly, the number three thing, which touched on briefly, is immigration. How he's going to deport all the people that he said he's going to deport, what it's going to cost, how it gets done. All of that remains up in the air, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But if it's mass deportations, that would probably be negative for the economy because it would cause a lot of the jobs that these folks are doing will cause wages to go up, and that will cause some degree of inflation. So a big data dump, but the three most important things we see him working on in the very beginning are going to be immigration, taxes, and the tariffs through executive orders.
I know that he's already presented a peace leaf already. Supposedly, Harris' campaign is, though she raised $1 billion, supposedly, they're like $20 million in the hole. And he suggested yesterday that the RNC might pay that for them to take care of that, which I thought was a really nice gesture on his part.
Well, I had not heard that, so I find that surprising, but I also find it refreshing. So I hope that is the case, and that he follows through on that.
Absolutely. And we're really going to be, when I say if the Republicans keep the House, it is going to be razor thin, Ray.
Yeah, it'll be even thinner than the eight votes that they had, the majority in the last one. And it only takes, as an example, if there are too many tax cuts, a few moderate Republicans to pull back, and obviously many of them will be concerned that they don't want to upset Trump once he becomes president, but at the same time, I don't think that they're going to totally roll over for him as well. And my theory is a simple one. There's only three ways that we're going to get out of this national debt problem that we're facing, and the no one of the three by themselves, and no two of the three. It's going to take all three to solve the problem. We have to increase our revenues. Mm-hmm. Got to have more money coming in. We have to find ways to cut expenses, and I think that Trump's administration will do that, particularly with Elon Musk being as close to the president or the president-elect as he seems to be. And then the third is through growth, because if we get more growth, that will raise more taxes, will mean consumers will have more money to spend, and so it becomes a very nice cycle. But you can't get us out of this mess simply by raising taxes. You simply can't get out of this by cutting expenses. You just can't cut that much. And then you got to have growth. So you got to have all three pieces in order for us to reach a point where we can begin to cut into this deficit and not add to it in the way that we have over the last 8 years.
Hey, Ray, Elon made a statement that he thinks he could trim at least $2 trillion off the budget. Do you think he could do that?
Well,
that's a lot.
Not only is it a lot of money, but it's like 30% of the budget, 25% of the budget. I don't think we can cut that much. What I do think, and where I think that there will be opportunities to cut, are going to be in the CFPB, the Consumer Protection Fraud Board, or I never remember what its name is. It started out as just a relatively small little group of people. It is grown to being in the hundreds of employees that are there now. I think you'll see that scaled back. I think you'll see cuts in other areas, but because so many of our budget is mandated, like paying our debt, the interest on our debt, Social Security, go right on down the line, it'd be very hard to get all of that done. And again, Social Security, we all know it's in trouble. This is a perfect example of getting ourselves out of this by what I just talked about. First of all, it has to raise more revenue. And that's a fairly easy thing to do by simply increasing the amount of wages that are taxed Social Security. And if we do that on a gradual basis, every year it goes up by the rate of inflation. But if we did the rate of inflation plus, say, another 1 or 2%, that would give us some additional revenue above the current projections, and that would help. We have to no longer allow people to begin drawing it at age 62. But what we need to do is let those that are up to a certain age be able to continue to do 62, then to 63, then to 64. That will cut down on some of the expenses. And then lastly, if we have that strong economy and we have more people working, that means more people contributing. So again, it comes down to raising revenue, cutting expenses, and having a strong economy. And that's the way I think that the Trump administration is going to try to solve that problem in a lot of different places. Can Musk or whoever else cut a lot of money out of the budget? I think so. But $2 trillion a year is, I think, a bit ambitious, even for Elon to find. Simply cutting, let's say, 500 billion, 600 billion, which I do think is possible, would make a significant dent into the expenses.
We've just got a couple minutes left, Ray. What do you think now? Before it's always been what if. Now the elections are over. We know it's going to be a Trump agenda. What should people be doing between now and the end of the year?
Ride the wave that we have at the moment. We talked about this before the election and the concerns about who might become elected. The fact is, and people find this hard to believe because we always think of the Republican Party as being the party of big business. Well, first thing is, let's look at this election. The people that elected Mr. Trump were a coalition of a very diverse group of people. It was largely middle class folks that voted for him. There were more men that voted for him than women who voted for him by a significant margin. So the people that elected him are very different than the people who elected him back in 2016. And going back to the Republicans thinking that they're part of big business, well, that's kind of been the history, and that's also been kind of the urban legend, because if you go back and look, the market has done better under a Democratic president than under a Republican president over and over again. Now, here's how everybody looks at that. The Republicans say, well, of course you did, because we fixed everything you screwed up the last 4 to 8 years. We fixed it, and then you benefited from it, and then you screwed it up again. So we'll have to come in and fix it again. And clearly, we heard that throughout the campaign, that in spite of the good economy that we were enjoying, because of the high prices, people didn't feel like that it was a good economy. So the most important thing is if you have a good long-range plan, don't do any changes. If you have a good, well asset allocated investment program, don't make any major changes. If you want to along the around the edges make some subtle changes, that's fine. But invariably, when people rush out and make emotional decisions because the world's going to come to the end or the market's going to go up forever, which either side you might be on, that's when people make mistakes. So stay the course. I know it's boring, but my in my almost 55 years of being in the financial and investment business, staying the course has worked, and I have no reason to think that won't as we go forward. And Stephen, let me remind everybody, complimentary 1-hour consultation in our Clearwater or Tampa office or by Zoom. All you have to do is call 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022. And we'll be happy to arrange for that complimentary consultation. Or if you would like to get our white paper on what now, and that is all of the things that we think will be affected in the economy because of the change, etc. Just again, you can call the number and ask for it. We'll have the report out early next week. And you can also email us at info@provise.com. That's PROVISE.com.
Hey, Ray, one of the great things about having such a great show is today they can always go back to the iHeart library and the Ask the Experts. They can find today's show and on YouTube. Ray, it's been a pleasure. I don't think we'll see you before Thanksgiving, will we?
Yeah, I think we will see each other just before Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But, before we leave, just one last thing. It's Veterans Day, and just want to recognize all of the people who have served in one of the various branches of our armed forces. Thank them, because we're free and we were able to prosper as a result of the sacrifices that they made, both some with their own lives and all of them by being in the service. So let's remember and thank our veterans today.
Amen to that. Thanks, Ray. We'll see you again soon.
Take care, Stephen.
And we'll be right back with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.